Okay, hello everyone. Howdy. My name is Donovan Conley, and welcome to COM 409, the Rhetorical Tradition. I'm just going to take 10 to 15 minutes to talk a little bit about the class, go through the syllabus, kind of emphasize some of the key information that you'll need to proceed with the next 5 weeks of learning in this course. This is a class that I have taught many times at this point, and I've done it both in the summer and in regular academic sessions. And, you know, it's a good amount of content kind of crammed together in 5 weeks. And so I can say right off the bat that the class moves fairly swiftly in terms of the reading, in terms of the content. And sort of right off the bat, one of the major messages I like to convey is to be very mindful about the pacing of this class. Organizational skills will be really clutch in terms of, understanding the kind of weekly flow of the content, knowing when the assignment deadlines are coming, and then planning and preparing accordingly. But it's very doable. Students get through this all the time, do very well. I started doing this thing a few years ago because I get a lot of requests for extra credit. But I don't like to come up with sort of additional assignments beyond the ones that students are already asked to do, especially if they've done poorly on those assignments. Why come up with new assignments, My attitude is, let me build in some bonus questions in the tests and, make those available to students. They're totally optional. But, I can tell you that at the last 3 or 4 years I've been doing this, I've actually had a number of students graduate the final grade over 100% because they've taken advantage of those test bonus points. You can actually make up some good bonus points. So the class moves swiftly. There's a lot of content, and some of the content is like weird, old, unfamiliar kind of stuff, right? We're going to be looking at Aristotle. We're going to be looking at Plato, some of those ancients. And so I try to offset that with, not having crazy amounts of assignments, try to pace things out so that you have some time to absorb and kind of process through things. And then, give you opportunities to kind of bump your grades up with these bonus opportunities on the tests. The main thing that I want to say there is, if you want to go after those bonus points, you need to be very careful and mindful about how you budget your time on the tests, right? So the test format is 25 multiple choice questions and then a number of written response questions. And you have, I think it's about 90 minutes, right? And it seems to me like the multiple choice questions you should be able to get through pretty quickly, especially if you've done the studying in advance and you've worked through the study guide. You should have a pretty good handle on the concepts, and you should be able to tear through those questions pretty quickly. I've noticed that the time on the multiple choice questions has stretched out over the years, and I think that's because students just have their materials out and are basically looking for the answers in their materials as they're taking it. And obviously that's going to stress your time way out. You could spend 2, 3, 4 minutes on a single question looking for the answer. Much better to have the answers inside of you before the test so that you can move swiftly through the multiple choice and then really spend time thinking about your answers for the written response, and then have more time to deal with the bonus points. So that's like, if you're concerned about grades, if you're concerned about success, staying up with the content on a weekly basis, minding the schedule and the calendar, organizing your time, being mindful and deliberate and intentional about when things are coming up and how you're approaching them. And then especially making sure that you're being as efficient as possible on the test, especially with those multiple choice questions. So they're only worth two points each, right? And so you don't really want to spend too much time working through the multiple choice. You want to get to the written questions as quickly as possible so that you can take advantage of the bonus. All right, that's a little bit further than we need to go at the moment, but I just want to kind of lay that out. It's important stuff. It's kind of one of the major sticking issues in this class in terms of success. I have students succeed in this class all the time, but those who do poorly tend to run out of time on the tests, tend to not get access to those bonus questions, which can really just like help you out, okay? So schedule, pacing, deliberateness, organization, these are super clutch. Now, the format of the class on the first page there, you'll notice that we've got 3 learning modules. 2 weeks spent on classical ancient Greek and Roman rhetorics, only 1 week on Renaissance and Enlightenment. There's a lot of weird and interesting things that happen between about, like the 15th century and the 19th century. But we're going to just breeze through that pretty quickly. So that's just going to be a week, and then 2 weeks on like late modern contemporary stuff. So the 20th century was actually quite interesting in terms of the story of rhetoric. So we want to spend a little bit more time in the ancient context and then a little bit more time in the modern and contemporary context. And that's the kind of the timeline structure of the class in terms of emphasis. Assignments are next, but let's see. Course materials, there's the James Herrick textbook, the 6th edition. Please get that. It's useful. A lot of stuff will be posted in Canvas in terms of like little snippets of things. A lot of stuff in there is just meant to be illustrative and supplementary and helpful. But the James Herrick book, and then a few additional readings not in the James Herrick book, but mostly the Herrick book. In addition to that, I'm doing these videos, so there's a lot of lecture videos. These are 20 to 30 minute long sort of, mini lectures where I work through the readings and drill down on concepts and try to explain things and make them clearer. So the lecture videos are really important, and they do correspond with the readings. They're meant to all kind of go together. The other thing is these notes. I think I used to call them prompts, but like for some of the trickier readings, I just walk through and I kind of put on a single document some of the most important ideas, passages, concepts, and try to just draw your attention to the key stuff there. So it's all meant to really help provide a kind of rounded sense of the material that we're going to be working through. So that's all first page stuff on the syllabus. And then the assignments, it's pretty simple. It's 2 tests and two papers, right? And so for the first 2 weeks, you want to just really spend your time working through the materials, making sure that you're getting good on, especially that foundational stuff. The models, Aristotle is super important. Plato's Critique is pretty important as well. If you have questions in those early days and weeks, do reach out, right? Because, if you're not fully understanding this material and really feeling lost, it'll hurt you in the test and it'll hurt you on the papers, right? So the first test and paper are really about the ancient context, and then the second test and paper are mostly about the late modern and contemporary context, with some questions having to do with the middle part. But that's really it. So the due dates are on the second page there. I try to usually space it out so that we have the test on a Friday, and then you have another day and sort of 2 days to work on the paper, and then you upload the paper by the end of Sunday. I can't do that at the very end of this semester because usually grades are due on a Tuesday. For whatever reason, the grades for this session are due the Monday after the class ends. And so for me to have you uploading papers on the Sunday night and then final grades are due on the Monday is just a little too tight for me. So the final test is on that last Friday, and then the final paper is due the next day on a Saturday. So please note that because I need to give myself some time to actually work through this stuff. I'm teaching one other class this summer as well. I only have right now about 20 students total, so it's not a lot of students, but it's still, I need some time to work through this stuff. So please do note those due dates. As mentioned, the tests are a combination of multiple choice and written response, and I like to give some flexibility in terms of those written response questions. So I usually come up with like 8 or 10 questions and then ask you to respond to like 5 or so, and then give you that bonus opportunity. That has worked well for me. I think I like that format. So the multiple choice are really kind of like, do you understand and recognize concepts and basic conceptual information? And then in the written portion, it's more about, okay, now let's see if you can sort of talk through these ideas on your own and put together things, make connections, and respond in a kind of thoughtful way to some of these questions and themes and tensions and issues we're looking at. So the third page of the syllabus, I had to add a new section. Interesting, being in academia over 20 years, the things that come and go out of the syllabus in terms of like mask policies. Well, we don't do mask policies anymore, but now there's a AI and chat GPT comment, right? And so just to let everyone know, gives me no delight, but I actually did fail some students in my spring semester of this very class. It was clear that students were actually just inputting the questions on the test into the chat GPT and then cutting and pasting the answers into their dialog box. And it took about 4 seconds to chase that down. It blew me away that students were actually doing that. I actually created a video before that final test in the spring, talking a little bit about Chat GPT and AI and kind of like how to think about this and where does it fit and how do we understand it. And I tried to take a kind of thoughtful approach, and I provided an experience of my own attempts to use this thing, and it's very unreliable. It's not, I mean, it can do incredible things, but it's also very capable of just fabricating stuff and hallucinating and giving false information or information that looks close but isn't close. So if you're an expert in a particular area and you start asking that thing questions about your area, you'll likely see that it has very obvious weaknesses. And it's really not something that you want to rely on, certainly as like this is, guaranteed information, right? So you, by all means, go use that Chat GPT stuff and play around with it. I actually have been using it quite a bit in my own writing and research just to kind of try out ideas, right? So a couple days ago I was working on something and I was playing around with these two terms, design and composition. I was like, design and composition, are they the same? Are they different? Like, how are they different? So I just went into ChatGPT and I said, how are design and composition different, or what are the distinctions? And it provided this interesting sort of comparison of these two terms. It's like, okay, that's interesting. I could maybe bounce off of that, but I would never cite that. I would never see that as definitive truth or anything. It's suggestive more than definitive, I think. And even in its suggestions, it is to be not trusted, I think. So bottom line is this stuff is not permitted in our classes. It's certainly not permitted on tests and papers. If you want to use it as a kind of very fallible research assistant to bounce ideas off of and kind of try things out on, fine. But please, this is a request and a demand. You cannot bring that into your test. You cannot bring it into your papers. It will hurt you. It will not go well, I assure you. So one more thing to be sort of mindful of as an instructor in terms of technology and how students sometimes get around things. But it's not your friend. It's a fun tool, but it is not your academic friend. The main spirit of citing sources or using other things to help you is to cite as much as possible, to attribute, to acknowledge. I like to think about, if you've ever created anything, but whether it be a recipe or a joke or a piece of clothing or anything that you've created that you feel like this is mine, I created this, to have someone come along and be like, I like that, I'm going to just use it. And I'm not going to acknowledge you, I'm not going to attribute, This happens online a lot when people share videos, but they don't credit, right? It's the same basic spirit, is if you've created it, if these are your ideas, your words, your intellectual product, then it's nice to be acknowledged by whoever uses it. But go ahead and use it. I want everyone on earth to cite my writing. Just cite it, like let it be known that this is mine. Because when I write, I'm obsessively citing. It actually helps your authority, your ethos, to let your reader know that you have done that work and that you're acknowledging it, right? It's all good stuff. Now, the ChatGPT stuff, don't cite it, don't acknowledge it, don't use it. I mean, I used to say this about Wikipedia. Like, go ahead and use it, just don't use it. Don't bring it in. Don't acknowledge it. Just like quietly kind of explore things and use it as a way to kind of nudge you in certain directions maybe. But please acknowledge that it's fallible. It is not the kind of grounded authority and credible authority that we like to have in academic exercises. Okay, lecture over. Already at 14. That's pretty much it, really. We got the schedule. It's all laid out. Everything corresponds in Canvas, so you just kind of work your way through. Just follow along what's on the schedule in the syllabus. There's a little bit more content in the Canvas page, again, just to help supplement, but you can just kind of work your way through and see the flow is the same, right? So we're working through, first we're going through the Sophists, and then we're going through Plato, and then Aristotle, and Isocrates, and on and on and on. And so just follow through, absorb the content, take notes. If you're stuck on stuff, please reach out. I actually be traveling for the first 10 days of this class. I'll be abroad, but we all are, right? I've had students emailing me telling me that they're in Thailand and Sorry, I couldn't get my paper done. I'm in a hospital in Thailand. Like, oh, wow. Okay. So that's really online education. That is distance education. So I'll be around. I'll be floating around. I imagine some of you will as well. But we got to do our best to stay in touch. And I will make myself available if you have questions or stuff that you're struggling with. My job is not to put the stuff online and then say, peace, later, good luck. My job is to be available, and I will be. And so if you have struggles, let me know, and we'll try to set up a time to chat, or we can do it through email or whatever. I don't want to take too long here. I think that actually is pretty good, covering what is essential. Trying to think if there's anything else. So I hope everyone's well. I do hope we get to chat at some point. I have found that over the last 3-4 semesters, students tend to be quieter and quieter and quieter, and I don't like it, honestly. I miss you guys. I'm actually teaching a section of this class in person in the fall because I'm so missing my connection with my undergrads. I haven't taught an undergraduate class in person in about 4+ years, and it's not right. I don't like it. So this is super convenient, and we all like it and everything, but we miss the juice, the intellectual juice, the social juice, the connection, the conversation. I miss that. So by all means, reach out. Even when I come back, I'll be back on the 20th of July, and I'll be around. So if you wanted to set up a meeting and come chat and have a coffee or come by my office, whatever, it'd be cool. Otherwise, I hope you're well. I hope that you enjoy the class. I hope that you are able to keep up and do well and succeed in whatever that might mean to you. And again, I'm here for you. So, peace. I'll be seeing you soon. And it's 4th of July tomorrow. I'm recording this on the 3rd because I'm flying out tomorrow. So I just wanted to say happy 4th, even though it'll be past when you watch this. But hope everyone's well, staying safe. It's really hot out there. So stay refreshed, drink lots of water, and we'll be chatting soon. Peace, guys.